Good afternoon, friends, and welcome to a Saturday afternoon live stream with Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. You know the drill. We're retired New York City police detectives and 9/11 World Trade Center first responders. And if you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, you're in the right spot. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you get all things DutyRon and this guy, my partner right here, Ed Wallace, when we go live or upload another video. Today, day 84. Ed, it's 84 days since Nancy Guthrie has gone missing. Her abduction on the faithful day seems like it was so long ago, but then again, it seems like it wasn't too long ago. We're going to talk about the blood that was left on her doorstep and the CSI and DNA analysis that is going to be going on as we speak at the outside lab with the FBI. Ed, your thoughts on some of the activity or lack thereof that we see in this case? And here we are, day 84.
Yeah, I can see the frustration in the FBI having wanted access to the genetic materials, the hairs, the blood, and anything else that was going to be processed for DNA. They're very upset about this, and it seems the lab in Florida didn't produce what they were looking for. And so now, months later, the FBI is getting all this information, data, materials, and so forth, so that they can try to work it up and get successful results from hairs, looking for SNP DNA rather. And again, they're going to have to outsource this to another lab that has been more successful with getting SNP DNA from hair. And so I can feel the frustration from my friends at the FBI. I can feel the frustration of the family and those of us in the true crime community with the way this is all playing out. And it was avoidable. Let me just put it that way. It was avoidable.
Yeah. And Ed, could you remind our listening audience, because we have so many new and returning subscribers, of some of your certifications? I know you're a certified senior crime scene analysis analyst, but tell some of the folks. I know that you've testified on so many different cases, and you're certified, by the courts. Just give some of the folks who may not know what your background is, what you got there.
So I was an NYPD crime scene investigator for 15 years. During that time, I achieved multiple certifications while working there. Certifications in hazardous materials, post-blast investigations, fire investigations, shooting reconstruction, bloodstain pattern analysis, and the overall crime scene, senior crime scene analyst certification from the IAI, which is a forensic organization that many crime scene investigators belong to, where you have to apply, get reviewed, get approved, test, and pass the test, and then have to have continuing education. All certifications require continuing education. And then in the case of the senior crime scene analyst certifications and some of the others, you have to be retested every 3 years or so. And then I testified in thousands of cases and have been qualified as an expert by judges. I don't call myself an expert. I allow them to do that. Judges and other people will call me experts in various forensic disciplines. And in the case of courtroom testimony, what ends up happening is whoever is bringing you in, whether it's the prosecutor or the defense, and they're wishing to make you an expert, will have to make an application to the judge stating that they would like this individual, me in this case, to be qualified as an expert. And then they lay the foundation of all my training, experience, certifications, how many cases, how many times I've been qualified as an expert. And then the opposite attorney, whether it's the defense or the prosecutor, gets a chance to voir dire me and then challenge that, or they would accept it. Sometimes they do challenge it, and then the judge makes the final ruling and declares a witness an expert. Now, once a witness is declared an expert, then that witness is allowed to give opinion evidence, which your normal witness can't give opinion evidence. Only a qualified expert that the judge says is an expert can give opinion evidence. And I've done that in numerous cases. And I developed bloodstain pattern analysis courses with my friends at the medical examiners, Dr. Pete Pizzola, Norm Marin, and Jeff Buska.
Yeah. And, you know, Ed, you know, a lot of people we hear, you know, some of the talking heads and some of the various people are out there on all the different media platforms who aren't experts in these types of situations and cases, give their you know, their opinions on this, and it's frustrating because we who have been educated by you, and thank you to you for that education, you know, we hear it and then we say to ourselves, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. So that's where I think some problems happen, not just with this case, but with all of the cases that we see the media covering is like they'll just get anybody. If you know, like you always say, I like to try to stay in my lane. And that's why I love having somebody like you, where you'll say to me, hey, Ron, this isn't something that we can tackle ourselves. And then we will get in, you know, our forensic pathologist that we had on the other day, Dr. Eric Eason.
Odontologist, you know, we'll bring in an odontologist, we'll bring an entomologist, and we'll bring an you know, so we'll have all the different forensic discipline experts brought in, right? Even though I'm highly trained in all these areas, but I am not an entomologist, I am not an anthropologist, you know, so we bring in those experts. You know, sometimes as a trainer, as a person that goes around the world training people, we create our own monsters, okay? So I develop with my coworkers at the medical examiner's office, a basic 40-hour bloodstain pattern analysis course. At the end of that 40-hour course, which is a lot of lab experiments and all these different things, there's a lot of hands-on training.
Right.
You don't walk away as an expert.
No.
Now you're going to have to do the work, and you're going to have to get peer reviewed, and then you're going to have to do like a internship and have a certified bloodstain pattern analyst you know, mentor you and review your work, and then guide you in the directions. Now, I didn't just have one 40-hour bloodstain pattern analysis course. I have multiple 40-hour bloodstain analysis courses. I have a basic, I have an intermediate, and I have an advanced. And I travel all over the country to get those courses from different individuals. Okay, not just one source, all right, because I want to see what other analysts are teaching and what they believe and so forth and so on. Okay, then after that, you have to do it a couple times. You have to have your cases peer reviewed, and then you should go through a panel. And I wrote about this in one of my textbooks, the crime scene management textbook that I wrote, where you have to establish, you know, like a 3-person review panel to review the analyst's work. Okay, as a means of quality assurance, quality control.
But what I like too, Ed, is that not only do you know, do the studying and take the courses, but you had the in service, you know, real life experience, being at 2,500 processing 2,500 crime scenes, being at numerous other crime scenes. Like, you were able to not only learn about it after and before and during and all of this, but you had that on the job, in the field experience. A lot of people can't say that they did that. And that's
that's true. But here's the thing. Like I said, I'll train people like this, and then after 40 hours, they go run out and think they're an expert and start doing this stuff without any peer review, without anybody watching what they did. I know a case where I went to a bunch of shooting reconstruction schools, and I went to the premier one by Mike and Lucian Haig, okay, out at Gunsight, Arizona, okay, and there was a person that went through Mike's training. It was civilian, never law enforcement, never a crime scene investigator, and he went out and purchased a 3D laser scanner and started taking on cases as a shooting reconstructionist. Okay.
That's crazy.
And, you know, and people were hiring this individual, and they were doing shooting reconstruction. And I got hired on a case, and I reviewed this person, and this person was all wrong. And I see, you know, I couldn't believe, you know, again, sometimes we create our own monsters.
Yeah, it's sad but true. Let's go circle back to the Nancy Guthrie case. You know, and this conversation was you know, just based around this whole investigation, and you know, the lack of communication from Sheriff Nanos. You know, there's many people in the chat that feel like he, in some way, shape, or form, is involved in this, and that's how you know, from one extreme to another this thing goes. And it's not just a couple of people. I see so many people saying that in different chats and different online venues, and where you see like people are saying the investigator should investigate the sheriff. Again, I don't disrespect or put anything to the side, because this has been the most bizarre set of circumstances by an investigating authority, that being the sheriff's department of Pima County, the sheriff of Pima. Once he gave those 3 press conferences and got a lot of flack for it and took a lot of shit for the way he communicated, he shut down. Like when you send a kid to his room without his dinner, and then they're quiet and they're just sitting there quiet. He's like a little child, like in the corner, you know, just being, you know, I still have the notes here. Big ego, spiteful. That's all he's being right now, is spiteful. And who is he being spiteful to? The victim's family, that being the Guthrie family, the residents of Pima County, and the whole entire world that's watching. But now that at day 75, that was week 7, we're in week 8. That was a week or so ago, 10 days ago. The FBI, this Astrea Labs, I don't know if I'm saying it right. I suck at getting the names right. But this lab in California has now the hair strand or strands. I've heard people say that there's strands, plural, or strand. So again, Ed and our listening audience, we apologize because we don't know, because of the lack of information and lack of clarity. This is not going to hurt the case if the sheriff said, hey, listen, there's strands, there is multiple strands, there's multiple DNA evidence that we're processing, but we don't hear anything from them. Let's take a listen to our friends at News Nation. They did a little piece on it. We'll listen to a little bit and we'll come right back to the chat. Let us know where you're watching, city, state, and if you're new, say where you're watching from. We'd love to say hello to you.
Tonight, FBI investigators at Quantico could be on the verge, perhaps, of a critical breakthrough in the Nancy Guthrie case, potentially using a new and cutting-edge technology that has proven to extract DNA from even the most difficult and degraded evidence. Our Brian Enton has learned that strands of hair were found inside Nancy Guthrie's home during what we believe were the initial phases of the investigation, and that those strands of hair have now been sent to the FBI for, quote, advanced analysis 2 months after she went missing. Until now, the Pima County Sheriff's Office has been using a Florida lab to handle all of its DNA testing, a decision that was controversial from the start.
Want to get exactly what I got from my source right. Some DNA evidence from Nancy Guthrie's home has been sent to the FBI's lab for advanced analysis. I'm told that the evidence includes hairs found in Guthrie's home. And that's an interesting part of this because we haven't known in the past that some of the evidence that they are testing for DNA has been hairs.
FBI sources have long indicated frustration with their limited access to the DNA, and the sheriff's office has struggled with analyzing so-called mixed DNA found at the crime scene. Experts believe the hair that is finally being sent to the FBI lab is likely rootless, meaning there's very little, if any, actual human tissue on the strands. Previously, those hairs were useless in criminal investigations in cases like this. But now there's something called whole genome sequencing. It's a method that extracts nuclear DNA from just the shaft of a stray hair. You don't need the root on the end. To give you an idea of just how mind-blowing the technology is, it's the same kind of DNA testing that helped break the case of Rex Heuermann, the Gilgo Beach serial killer. Of course, we don't yet know whose hair this is and whether it belongs to the suspect, to Nancy herself, or to any other person who might have wandered through her home at any time.
I'm going to stop and answer this question. I do not believe that this was that the suspect was just a predator who may not have initially intended to abduct Nancy Guthrie. I think that the intention to abduct her and take her and ultimately kill her, because I believe that she is not alive, is what the mission was, and that is exactly what they did. Where is the gain, the financial gain? That's up to the investigators to figure out. But there's always a financial component to this. And we don't know enough because there's no information that's being put out. But thank you for that comment. Appreciate that.
But it does seem like investigators at least have a hunch that this could lead to something big. Joining us now is renowned DNA expert and genetic genealogist Cece Moore, the nation's premier DNA expert, and former CIA officer and News Nation national security contributor Tracy Walder. Great to have both of you with us. Cece, this lab in Florida wasn't able to do anything with the hair, but now they've sent it to Quantico where they're able to do this sort of mixed DNA testing?
The hair is not the mixed DNA that we've been hearing about. Hair would be single source. The lab in Florida does have some capabilities, and if there had been a root, they would have already tested this and I'm sure been successful. It's a lot harder when you don't have the root, which is why we believe this is rootless hair or a hair shaft. The FBI themselves would not be the ones trying to extract DNA from that because they work with a company in Santa Cruz called Estrella Forensics. That's who has done all of the rootless hair work for the FBI, including in the Rex Heuermann Gilgo Beach murders.
So the hair actually won't be tested at Quantico. Quantico will then send it to this lab in Santa Cruz.
If it's rootless, absolutely. Yeah, they might be testing it in other ways.
Remember here, and Ed, I know that you're doing some research, but she's saying if it's rootless. Nobody knows whether it's rootless or not, and we're all to speculate.
I'm assuming it's rootless because they didn't get a profile. I mean, there's no reason if you have the root not to be able to get a nuclear profile with both the father and the mother, as opposed to mitochondrial, and then there's SNP. Okay, so you would if it didn't have you would think if the root was there, it would have been easy peasy.
Yeah, right.
For the Florida lab to get it.
Right, and it's because they took their time and they went through it and they were unable to come up with a profile. Boom. It's now brought back into the custody of FBI, who, in fact, now, do they hand deliver that to California, Ed, or is that something
that's probably FedEx?
FedEx. Okay.
But to extract that DNA, that SNP profile that we need for genetic genealogy, they would be sending that to Estrella, I'm sure, because they've had such a track record with them and so much success in the past.
Tracy, why do you think they're focusing on these strands of hair, given, I mean, it could come from anywhere, anyone, at any time?
Well, you're right. I mean, I think, listen, any kind of forensic evidence that's at the scene can be attributed to anyone. It can be the suspect, it could be the victim, it could be so many different people. But the problem is we need this information to be able to rule people out or rule people in this case. And so in a case like this, where we really actually don't have a lot of digital forensic evidence, which obviously the FBI is very good at.
Guys, remember the day we saw all of these folks in suits going out there? That was the prosecutor's office, some FBI, and some of the attorneys that were looking at the house and the location before they finally, for the second or third time, handed the property back to the Guthrie family. Remember this? This was like a big media day. Everybody was there and swarming this location. I remember this like it was yesterday, but it was a long time ago.
really, this becomes very, very important. We have a clear lack of video forensic evidence, as we have seen, as well as really phone and those kinds of forensic evidence. And so I think in this case, there's no question that hair is going to be important in terms of ruling whomever that is in or out. And the FBI is going to probably have to investigate if they can get a hit on it, who it is.
Cece, most hair found at crime scenes, is it rootless hair, just the shaft?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's really common to test the root from a hair with forensic evidence, but we are finding that there are thousands of cases that don't have any other type of DNA evidence. And that's why this is so
You're talking
groundbreaking.
no blood, no saliva,
Right.
no semen, nothing.
Right. And so that's why we've been suddenly able to solve cases that weren't even solvable prior to even with genetic genealogy. So genetic genealogy came in 2018. The ability that Dr. Ed Green created to extract this profile from rootless hair is even newer than that. So it's another leap forward that opens up a lot more cases to potentially be solved.
How long will it take the lab, Australia lab, to test this hair?
Well, in my experience, because I've worked with them a lot, it typically takes months. But I'm
Months.
guessing, because this is not a cold case, that they will likely push it up in priority and start working on it immediately. And
So she's saying, Ed, in her experience in normal, everyday case load turnaround, it could take months. But in this case, as we discussed before we went live, I'll put us back on for a second. I know you were looking down and doing some research there. But as we discussed before we came here live, the FBI, I'm sure Pima County Sheriff didn't have any say in it, but the FBI probably said, hey, look, let's fast track this. We want to get to at least perp profile, at least a profile of a potential perp here, because everybody's watching this and nobody's really taking their eye off of this. Yes, the coverage has slowed down with the media and so forth, but this is a huge case where it's an 84-year-old woman just vanished out of her home, and the FBI is on this case and they want to get answers. Correct, Ed?
Yes, 100%.
Let's listen to a little bit more, and then we're going to go and segue to the porch and to the blood that was left on her front doorstep. We're going to just discuss that and do a little bit of a clarification on that.
And then part of it is luck. Sometimes they can get DNA the first time around, and sometimes they have to go through several attempts before they can get that viable profile.
Tracy, since you've been covering this case with us, there's been so much criticism of the Pima County Sheriff and the decisions that he and his team made on this case. A lot of that criticism was about the fact that they chose to use this lab in Florida, which I need to point out is quite reputable. A lot of law enforcement agencies use it and have great success with it. What's your assessment of that lab, and should the Pima County Sheriff have relied on that lab instead of Quantico from the start? Because a lot of people are criticizing him for making that choice.
Thank you for making that point about the lab. This is a lab that is actually certified by the FBI. This isn't some, random lab that they sent this sample to. So I just want to make that point clear. However, obviously I'm a former FBI agent. I try to go a little bit easier on anyone in law enforcement, but I actually vehemently disagree with what Sheriff Nanos did in this case. I think in a case of this nature, now listen, at Quantico, they can't just process all of the DNA evidence that comes in. This is why we have private labs, for speed and for efficiency. But in a case like this, where you may know that you may have some DNA samples, some biological samples that maybe didn't get DNA from, it should have immediately gone to the FBI. I think they lost 11 weeks of time.
Yeah. And now Cece's telling us it.
I see you shaking your head, Ed.
I 100% agree. 100%.
Tracy has been a guest on our show twice. I'd love to have her back again sometime because she's sensible. And what I love about Tracy is, for the most part, 99.9% of the time she stays in her lane. But yes, you have to really acknowledge that the sheriff made a huge mistake, one of many. And Ed, there's too many to list here, but we could go with the obvious. The releasing of that crime scene, and for him to point fingers at his own personnel who he's in charge of making the decisions of shutting down the crime scene too early or whatever the case may be. Ultimately, if he had any knowledge of how to control or handle a crime scene, he would say to himself, look, this place should be locked down until further notice. Nobody's living there other than the woman who's missing, who went and vanished in the middle of the night. So what would have been the problem with him taping that whole area off around the complete whole the whole residence there, and putting 1 or 2 police vehicles in the front of that driveway? What would have been the problem with that?
Well, I don't see any problem whatsoever in that, and that's exactly what I would have done. So, they got to answer for it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he's answering for anything, because as I'm talking to you, I got a text message from Pima County Sergeant Aaron Cross, and basically he told me that Sheriff Nanos, and I'm looking at a report that he shared with me, failed to file his report to the board. And this was part of their impeachment process or recalling process for Sheriff Nanos. So he is being, again, as I put here, big ego, spiteful. So he's being spiteful with the board members and saying, you're not getting the report that you're requesting. So this is another step, another foot in his mouth. And I'll read a little bit more of it as we continue on. But
well, you're right that they're not answering it for now. But should they find her, and should they recover her, and should they identify the perpetrators and arrest them and then bring them to trial? At trial, there's going to be issues.
This is where the problem will lie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question that this lab in California, I believe, will, as CeCe Moore was saying, come up with something. It's going to just take some time. Could that be the break in this case? Yeah, sure. It could be.
Yeah, well, I mean, it could be if they can get a profile that they can do familiar data searches with, and then find some kind of family match and bring it back to the perpetrator.
Yeah. And let's segue into the blood at the front door, because we know that Sheriff Dumbo said in the earlier days that blood was tested, confirmed to be that of Nancy Guthrie, our 84-year-old victim here.
Mm-hmm.
Commingled flashlight guy, porch guy with the flashlight in his mouth. We saw that crime scene tent, that white tent that the FBI brought in there some many days later. Ed, it was, I don't remember the exact amount of time, but it was a good 2 weeks when they set up that white tent in the front. And we still saw, this is very, very, this is very pressing and very upsetting to people, that front mat was never taken and collected. If in fact it was picked up or collected or taken into evidence, there wouldn't be much for people to talk about. But that mat was never taken in and never processed. How could that be?
There's no excuse for it. So I'm just as frustrated as everybody else, but more so, I guess, because I'm in the forensic community and I would not have left that there.
A lot of people speculated about that blood and how was Nancy Guthrie removed from that home? Was she carried over someone's shoulder? Somebody in the comments said, that would be really heavy. If she'd be real heavy weight if she was unconscious, slung over someone's shoulder. That the guy that we see on the video with the gun in the front in his crotch area. People have speculated. Okay, was Nancy assaulted inside the home? They spent 40 minutes allegedly or more inside that home, or did everything happen right there in the front of that vestibule, the portico, portico, however you want to put it? Ed, I just want you to maybe talk a little bit about it. I have a 10-minute video that we uploaded a long time ago. I don't know the date on it, but we discussed from your professional opinion, and again, this is not coming from someone who's just speculating and looking at the stuff, but you again stated that, based on what you see, and that you're not getting your eyes on the whole picture here. If there was more video or more photographs, it would give you a better insight and better look at this. We have more to say, but based on what you saw, your thoughts on that blood and what was going on, in your opinion, with Nancy at that point.
Okay. So again, these aren't these videos taken by moving videos of at an angle other than 90 degrees are not ideal for conducting bloodstain pattern analysis. Okay. But that said, these 90-degree drops, right? What you're seeing there are 90-degree drops. The size and the geometry of these drops there are multiple factors in what you're seeing here. We don't know what the volume of blood is, okay? How much she was bleeding. She's on blood thinners, so the viscosity of the blood is going to be thinner, okay? So then, people on blood thinners, you have to worry about getting bleeding injuries because of the blood thinner, and they're not clotting and they could bleed out. Okay. Especially head trauma. Okay. Internal bleeding and things of that nature. So the height that the blood dropped will affect the size of the stain. The force of the blood drop, is it being acted on by just gravity? And that's when the height of the blood drop affects the diameter base, and the volume affects the diameter, plus the surface it impacts affects what we're looking at here. This type of tile is not a smooth porcelain tile. It's got nooks and crannies in it. It's got peaks and valleys. And when blood drops it just by gravity, when blood drops on there, it could bust this up and create spines around a 90-degree blood drop, and then shoot out little satellite blood stains from the original blood stain. Then you have projected blood. Okay, you can have an artery severed, and then that will have energy greater than gravity, because it's the two beats of the two pumps of the heart that are forcing that blood through that artery out. Okay, then you have blood dripping into blood, which can create some of these satellites. Now, where that arrow is right now in the middle, it appears from that has what we have different definitions for different stains, okay? So that appears to be altered blood, meaning something went through that blood. My guess, we have terminology, right? We have passive and dynamic transfers. A passive transfer would be if I had blood on my hand and I just placed it down on the ground and then lifted without any movement. Another type is dynamic. I have blood on my hand and I put that down on a surface that does not have blood and I move my hand. Okay. Now that is called, in our definitions, a swipe. Okay. Now, if blood is already on the ground, and then I place a clean object or my hand that's clean into that blood and then move my hand through that blood, that is called a wipe. Okay. And so we have different definitions, and you can go to the International Association of Bloodstain Pattern Analysts, the International Association of Bloodstain Pattern Analysts website, and you can look at all of those definitions there. And then you can also look at various videos that are there that show you how these blood stains are made. So the size, the geometry of the blood is all affected by a lot of different factors. Okay. And so,
consider this to be a lot of blood, or is this like a...
No, I don't consider this a lot of blood.
Yeah.
No.
And would this be indicative of someone that was carried low to the ground, high to the ground?
You can't say that. You can't say that because you're missing a lot of factors. You don't know the volume of blood she was letting out. You don't know the height. Okay. You don't know those factors. You would have to do a whole lot of experiments to try to figure that out. In addition,
force trauma too.
What's that?
would something like this be created if someone was hit in the face with a blunt force object? Like,
well, if you punch somebody in the face or you hit them with an object in the face, in the mouth, in the nose area, yeah, that could cause this as well. But also, I was getting to the point that the center where your arrow is altered blood, because it appears, in my opinion, somebody went through there. That's probably where they swabbed to get that blood, to run it to the lab, and got the DNA for Nancy, and identified it as her blood. Okay. Now, these little tiny spatters that are around the outside, okay, there are several ways that can be caused. And one of them is expired blood, where you coughed it out of your mouth.
Sneeze.
Right now. And then you see these bigger stains that have little void patterns in them. Some of those void patterns can be caused by air bubbles from expired blood, or the tile itself broke up the stain, and the geometry of the tile, the peaks and valleys at those locations, gravity caused the blood not to go into those areas because they were higher, and then it moved down to the other sections of the blood stain there. All right. All right. So again, I would need close up. Now, if this was expired blood and it was coughed out of a mouth or nose, it is going to be mixed with your amylase, saliva, and mucal membrane material. Now, a quick UV light search of this area, blood will not fluoresce. It will absorb the UV wavelength and turn black. But saliva and amylase and mucal membrane will fluoresce, and typically it's like in the orange range, okay, of fluorescence. And then, you know, these little tiny blood spatters here. Now, this originally could also have been a pool of blood before somebody went swabbing through it, and then blood dripped into blood, creating these secondary spatters. Because if you look at these secondary spatters that are out there, you can see some exclamation point type stains that give you possible directionality emanating from the exclamation points are going in multiple different directions. But what it does tell me there is that someone paused here. Someone paused that here to create all of these different drops in this one area. There was very little movement here to allow this to occur.
Yeah. And this could have, you know, again, all speculative. It could have been a transfer point of where they were moving, and she may have gotten, again, an injury to the nose, or, you know, she's on blood thinner. We talked about this, right? Mm-hmm. So just a little bit of a bump could cause this kind of bleeding to the mouth or to the nose. Or if she was, if she got frequent nosebleeds, this could have been something from a nosebleed, from being nervous and being woken up and startled in the middle of the night. Her own daughter said she was taken out in her pajamas, right, in the middle of the night. She made the statement on her Instagram. Ed, if you don't mind, I'd like to play a little bit of this. And this is from, I'm going to get the date so everybody knows. We uploaded this 2 months ago. So this is from February 17th of 2026. Who wants to hear a little bit of Ed Wallace on a live show talk about this blood? It may be a little redundant, but Ed, you just gave extra context to what we're going to listen to here. So I'm not going to play the whole 10 minutes, but I'm going to play a little bit of it. This is Ed Wallace and myself on February 17th of 2026. So let's take a listen.
Person that deposited this, or the item that deposited there, was there for a bit of time to deposit all of that, and then create what we see here called these satellite spatters, where blood is dripping into blood and then coming out of the main pool of blood, and then in 360 degrees and spattering around where, so that person is still there, is motionless there for a period of time to
possibly
create that
held or carried out, maybe wrapped in something,
standing or being held. Yeah.
And folks, if you could take a moment to like, subscribe, and share, we appreciate it. Thumbs up is always free, and we appreciate that as well.
You know, the FBI visited this scene twice, and the locals visited first, and then the FBI came in and visited it twice, and to
Get
two
out
separate
here. I
days.
slowed it up and I'll let it play as it's going. Hey, Ed, any thoughts on, I know that was early on. We saw that was when the FBI came back a second time and they were over here in the front. Any thoughts on what was going on here?
Maybe there was some blood trail that went out into off that pathway in that area, because they seem to be photographing and looking at materials in that area.
Because right here is where Porch Guy went to grab the bush.
The plant, yeah.
Yeah, the plant was right here. And then maybe this was a path of how he walked up.
It could be a footwear impression there too.
Yeah.
First, and then the FBI came in and visited it twice in two
Get out
separate
here.
days.
I slowed it up and I'll let it play as it's going. Just let the
We're
audio.
looking at a series of 90-degree blood drops that are not there. Can you back it up? Straight down onto the.
Yes, I can. How far
Yeah,
are you?
right there. Right there.
Can you
Try to
tell,
center the stain up to the left.
can you tell me I did a perfect job at this?
You did a perfect job at this.
Thank you, Ed.
Does that make you feel better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I'll send you some crayons and Play-Doh.
Hold on a second.
Stop breathing down my neck.
All right, so you wanted me to stop this here. For what
Yeah.
reason?
Can you center the left stain?
Absolutely.
If you just play it a little bit forward, it'll center. Oh.
Let it play as it's going. Just let the
We're
audio.
looking at a series of 90-degree. Now that stain right there, that interests me
This one.
because that's something I typically see in expired blood. And there would be a mixture of amylase and saliva in something like that. Okay. I've seen that time and time again, where the amylase is that little string connecting the two bodies of blood. So yeah, I would like, to see that.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
And when we do bloodstain pattern analysis, the photography has to be 90 degrees to the surface that where the stain is. So on this case, our lens has to be parallel to these tiles, right? Because if you photograph at an angle like these are, it then changes the geometry of the stain. So what you're looking at there is not the true geometry of it, because the camera's lens is at an angle to it.
And this also gives us a good look at the grouting in between these tiles, right? And you can
Yeah.
see how it's raised, Ed. And
Yeah.
exactly to your point of how some of that had that trajectory of, if the blood dropped here, right, directly on this, it could just pull down. And you can also see the nooks and crannies in this tile. It's not like a smooth surface. It's gotten, So this is a good depiction of what you're working with here. And only the people who were actually there and saw this know. But from looking at this, you can tell that this is raised and the tile portion is lower. That's for sure. This is a good view. Hey, as it's going, just let the audio.
We're looking at a series of 90-degree blood drops that are basically it's falling straight down onto the tiled surfaces here. And it's suggesting an object that had blood on it or a injury from a wound.
You look at this little blood droplet or right on the back end of this. You could see him as far as up here as well. Little teeny little piece. But this one is interesting too, Ed.
Okay, so that's we call that a partial skeletonized blood drop. And what could have occurred there is that section that doesn't have blood on it is higher, and gravity let the blood flow in the direction that was lower. Okay. Also, there could have been a number of other factors there, because that seems to be like right on the lip of the tile, and there may be some kind of concave surface there.
Here's a question. I want to go to the chat in a few minutes from Sharon. She says, Orange County girl, probably from the air bubble and appearance. Here, I'm sorry, this is the Orange County girl. OC girl 2025. Ed, how do you know saliva is in that blood pattern with the amylase? Amylase is an enzyme found in the pancreas.
Right, but amylase is also found in saliva, and so that's what we test for to confirm the presence of saliva.
Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome, Ron. An open wound that was letting blood out. was depositing blood on these surfaces with no force greater than gravity, and that this was slow movement in this area, staggered movement around there. And now you can see over here where you have these right there. That's telling me that the person that deposited this, or the item that deposited there, was there for a bit of time to deposit all of that, and then create what we see here is called these. Okay, so folks, this center stain here, all right, that appears to be, again, a dynamic, it's an altered blood stain, and it's what we call dynamic, meaning there was movement through it. So the blood was deposited, and then somebody took an object, and my guess is the way these parallel lines are going here, that somebody took a swab and went through there and swabbed that blood. Okay, and you can also sequence the blood here too. You could see if the larger drops dropped on top of smaller drops, or if the smaller drops dropped on top of around the edges of the larger drops. But you can see these parallel lines going through here, and that to me is indicative of swabbing.
Right.
I've seen that time and time again.
So you think crime scene techs at the scene swabbed here in the middle? And that was the next question, because I saw it go by earlier. People are asking in the chat, how much blood do they have to take to do the testing? Is it a decent amount of blood?
You want to fill the swab head.
Just enough to swab on a.
You want to fill that swab head with the blood. And also, again, this in the definition of bloodstain pattern analysis, those lines going through there. Okay, so the blood is there first, and then I'm taking an object and wiping it through it. I'm wiping it. Okay, not swiping it. It's a wipe. Okay, just think of, when you go to the bathroom, you're wiping, not swiping.
Oh my God, Ed. Okay, thank you for that.
Okay, got to give a visual.
Wow.
Pardon my French.
That's telling me that the person that deposited this, or the item that deposited there, was there for a bit of time to deposit all of that, and then create what we see here is called these satellite spatters, where blood is dripping into blood and then coming out of the main pool of blood, and then in 360 degrees and spattering around where. So that person is still there, is motionless there. They're there for a period.
Okay, Ed. Sharon again with the question. Thank you, Sharon. We love you. We appreciate you.
I really need to get a good look at those stains to see if I can see any air bubbles and any amyloid or saliva type material, or mucal membrane material, to see if this is aspirated, or because if blood gets down into the lungs and then you're coughing it out, that's an issue. If your mouth fills with blood and you're spitting and you're coughing, I really can't tell if this is that, or if that center stain was once a whole bunch of 90-degree blood drops dropping from gravity with no other external force impacting each other, creating these secondary spatters. Now, we did a whole show on bloodstain pattern analysis, and I showed all kinds of photographs of the experiments I do with my students on this. We do blood dripping into blood at various heights, and then what ends up happening, as I said, the geometry, the stain distribution, there's a lot of different functions, a lot of different areas that impact the stain patterns that are developing. And one of them is the height the blood is dropping. But then you get to a height, say between 20 and 25 feet. And if you're using the same source, the same volume, the blood is dripping from, the stain, when it impacts a vertical surface, or in this case, this tile floor, will not get any larger, because it's reached its terminal velocity, which means that the upward forces and the downward forces on the blood drop are the same. And no matter how high you go above 20 to 25 feet, that blood drop is not going to create a larger stain than that.
Ed,
So,
thank you for that explanation too. That really gives a lot of clarity. Franny Melville, who's a channel member, says, please expand on how long you think she or / an object were there depositing that blood. What clues does this give about what happened? Thank you.
I mean, if there's no blood, if there's no blood trail inside the house leading up to here, if there's no blood in the bedroom that indicated an attack occurred there and she was injured there. I mean, because you could have no blood, you can have blood in the bedroom and then no blood trail because maybe there was an object over the bleeding section, stopping the blood from getting to the ground in the house as she was being brought to this area, or she was attacked here. Okay, she was attacked here, punched in the face, bloody nose, whatever the case may be.
The door, whatever the case may be.
And then she's standing here for a bit of time. Now, what also would be interesting to me, because I don't have more detail, I would also be looking for void patterns. Okay. Right. Void patterns that intercepted the blood and didn't allow the blood to go on other areas of the tile, such as shoes, clothing, maybe pants. If she was on her knees and bleeding here for a bit of time, then there would be void patterns to show where her knees were on the other tiles, say to the left or right of this, depending on, I think it's to the left where the door would be. And then if you find those void patterns, then when you find a clothing or shoes, then there should be blood deposited on those things that will say, okay, this all lines up now.
I remember in the beginning when we first saw this video from Brian Enton, you were like, slow it down. I want to see if there's any kind of, any type of disturbances or break in the blood pattern. And it was difficult to see it because it was just in that area.
Yeah.
But yeah, great stuff. Ben McCoy.
So to answer this question, this is after they dropped the crime scene and our good friend Brian walked up there with his camera. Ryan Enton walked up there with his camera and videotaped this.
Right, and it wasn't just Brian. It was a free for all. Anybody could go up there. Anybody that wanted to go up there and take pictures and video was able to do that. So very interesting. So
yes, this could be blunt force trauma.
Yeah.
Nancy was on blood thinners.
Yes. Let's go to the chat. Hold on a second. I want to just see if I see anything. All right. So Lady Jane says Jim Clemente, that's the FBI profiler, hypothesizes she was attacked outside as she likely put up a final fight, as she realized they were taking her out of her home and maybe she said something and they cracked her in the mouth. Possible, but who? That's like it's just speculation. We would have to have a crystal ball to know what happened because we don't have video, we don't have eyewitnesses, we don't have anything other than us being led to speculate what happened. Correct, Ed?
Yes, that's correct. It's just one person's opinion.
Yep, and everyone's got an opinion, just like something else. So that is, that's true. Thank you for highlighting that. Thank you for that question. All right. Hashtag Ed, hashtag DutyRon. I'll let the rest of this play. I like this comment, Ed. I know you will too.
Thank you for your support.
Ed does know his stuff. That is a fact.
Another question here. When you're doing a test in the lab setting, what substances do you use best to match the consistency of blood? Okay. So when we're doing experiments in training, we use defibrinated sheep's blood. Okay. We don't use human blood. We use defibrinated sheep's blood. And what that means is we took the clotting factor out of the blood so that the blood could last longer in the refrigerator so that we could reuse it in training days later. Now, in this case, she had blood thinners. Okay. So, and we don't have a source of blood that, we can get the blood thinner into that would change the viscosity of the blood that we're testing or using. And then we have synthetic blood that we use in training also. And we can use the synthetic blood because it will react with your presumptive field blood test and also luminol and blue star. And we use that as a quality control, quality assurance testing on our presumptive blood test to make sure they're working before we actually bring them into the crime scene.
So here's a good question from Tracy Brown. She says, how do you know how old the blood is. Well,
You don't know.
We don't know, but we can say that on, I think, February 2nd or whenever this was, or 3rd, whatever day it was, as soon as they opened up the crime scene.
Well,
So
the only thing here, forensically speaking, you cannot age blood drops. Okay, the only thing you can do is like get witnesses who were at this location, and someone that was there close to the event time, and ask them, did you see this blood at the main entrance of this house?
Right.
Okay, at that time when they were there, so then you would know that it wasn't there before. It had to come sometime after. But yeah, forensically, scientifically, we can't age when the blood got there and how old the blood is.
Yeah. So Michelle, is that Mike? Michelle, is that Michael or Michelle? I can't. The lettering is so small.
It looks like Michael Lyon.
Yeah, Michael Lyon. Okay. If we could see a larger view of the whole porch and the whole blood path, that's, again, we're just
go back on the video then. And
yeah. Well, here it's going to be a complete walk up right here. So I'll go full screen with it. Load it up and I'll let it play as it's going. Just let the audience.
We're looking at a series of 90-degree blood drops that are basically it's falling straight down onto the tiled surfaces here. And it's suggesting an object that had blood on it or a injury from a wound. Can you back that up a little bit? That was letting surfaces here. Okay, and so here you go, folks. This is the best you're going to probably get. So back it up just a little bit. It's falling straight down onto the tiled surfaces here. There. Okay.
Right here.
Now, a question was in the chat is, do I take swabs of all these different drops? No, you don't. If you suspect that it's all a part of a pattern or a trail, you would start at the beginning of the trail, in the middle of the trail, and the end of the trail, and take maybe 3 samples that way.
Well,
but
I think why people are asking that is because true crime enthusiasts are saying, what if this is somebody else's blood mixed in with hers? What if there's the perp got a cut on his finger from hurting her and she's bleeding?
That's a possibility. But again, then we'd probably, I mean, if both the victim and the perp are bleeding and leaving blood, we should have, based upon their positions and how they're traversing this patio, separate blood paths.
Yeah. So Brenda says, thank you. Age of blood, that scares me. That people to attest to that would be family, deliveries, Amazon guy. Yeah. Somebody also asked in the chat way back that why was the blood left there? Whose job is it to clean up that blood? And that's a fair question, right?
Okay, yeah, the job is the family of the owner of the properties actually is to like if we have crime scenes in NYCHA, New York City Housing Authority, then NYCHA has to clean it. If we have crime scenes in Transit Authority, then Transit Authority has to get it clean. Now, you typically, they would hire a certified hazmat biohazard crime scene cleanup crew. There's plenty of those people out there these days making money cleaning up crime scenes, and insurance companies pay for it.
Right. But I've been on crime scenes in NYCHA, that's New York City Housing Authority property, that's public housing, where we have someone that bleeds out like a tremendous amount of blood, and they would just call FD to do a washdown. I've seen
on the outside, right? You wouldn't hose down a hallway, would you?
On the street. I'm not talking about inside the property, but right outside the property. If the person died in the gutter of the street, they would just hose it down and just let it go down into the sewer after it was processed naturally. No,
the MVAC was not used. They don't have an MVAC here in this jurisdiction.
We wish.
Dripping into blood and then coming out of the main pool of blood and then in 360 degrees and spattering around so that person is still there, is motionless there. They're there for a period of time to drop that amount of blood there. So it's like someone was like maybe holding the victim there waiting for something, or, and the victim was bleeding there. And then they slowly moved towards the front. And you're trying to look also to see if you could see any directionality in the blood drops by the spines around the drops. Now, again, could this be...
Ed, you want to correct this one?
Getting punched in the nose can cause coughing. Under these conditions, creates a risk of pulmonary aspiration where the blood is inhaled into the lung. Yeah, that's 100% accurate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you for handling that. And thank you, Kim, is Ladybug. I think Kim has a little bit of medical experience behind her, but I could be wrong, but thank you, Kim.
Aspirated or blood. Yes, it could be.
Or a sneezing. Is that what you're meaning?
Coughing, sneezing, or spitting, right? But there's also blood dripping into blood here. Okay, right. So that creates what we call these satellite spatters in 360 degrees. Now, if she did spit this out of her mouth or something like that, then there'll be amylase and saliva commingled with the blood, and that should, if you swabbed it, the analyst should be able to find that very easily. Probably. Is it considered a lot of blood? Not really. It's not considered a lot of blood. Lip bleeds, nose bleeds. They can bleed a lot, but she was also on blood thinners, so that concerns me very much. If she was on blood thinners, and this is her blood, we know it's her blood, that could be a minute cut or a minor impact to a lip or nose to cause bleeding can be quite dangerous. I can't put a time frame on when this blood was deposited. Okay, Ron, the only way that could be done.
Yes.
Can I show a photograph of experiments I do in my training of expired blood?
Let's ask the chat if they would like to see that. I say yes. I would never say no to you, Ed, with a few exceptions. Very few. Well, yeah, go ahead. Show it.
Okay, let me see. How do I add?
I just stopped my screen, so you should be able to add it really easy.
Okay, which is the icon?
Yeah, you just go present, and then
I don't see present.
Well, I have present right next to it at the bottom. Present.
No, leave studio.
Are you telling me that you're becoming a rookie in your old age?
Well, all I have is icons here at the bottom. I don't see anything that says present.
Okay.
I see a person with a plus next to it. I see a screen. I'm going to touch that one. Okay, now I have share screen. Okay, got it. All right.
Rookie.
All right.
Rookie.
Stop breathing down my neck.
Blow it out your ass.
Oh, that was the wrong button. Hold on.
Stop breathing down my neck.
Sorry, chat, for the blow it out your ass comment.
All right. Let's see if this shows. Does that show?
It damn sure does.
Okay, let me make it larger. Is that better?
I did. I made it larger. That's what she said.
That more better? Okay. So this is
sorry.
This is high-speed photography of actually, this is Jeff Buska, one of my criminalists that we worked on the bloodstain pattern analysis course together when I was the director of forensic training. So we drew his blood in a vacutainer, and then he popped the cap off. Obviously, no EDTA or any preservatives or anything like that. Just a standard vacutainer. He drinks. Well, he puts the blood into his mouth, and now he's going to spit it out. Okay. So you actually see how this is coming out of his mouth, and this is the subsequent stains that he leaves on.
Can you make that bigger? Can you make that bigger?
Yeah.
Just center it. Move it over at the bottom. There you go.
Okay.
So this is him spitting or blowing this out of his mouth.
This is him spitting it out of his mouth. And you can see the mixture of saliva and amylase. Remember those little tails that I told you about? Like, yes. I don't know if you can see, you see my hand right here?
Yes.
Okay. So that is your saliva and amylase, and it will test positive for that. And you can see, like down here and over here, you could see air bubbles, okay, that are mixed in here.
Right.
Okay. And
this is a good representation, Ed. Hey, chat, how many of you guys in the chat find this fascinating? This is stuff that you won't see anywhere else. Ed, go ahead, continue. This is really, really a great educational, fascinating display.
So let me show you the next one. So you see the mucal strands. That's what we're talking about there. Okay. And you can see in this one, let me make it larger.
Is this what you've been looking at all this time, looking down?
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh
You can
my
see the air bubbles, and then you can see these tiny, a cough, a sneeze can produce so much energy into a liquid. So that's what bloodstain pattern analysis is in a nutshell. It is the application of a force to a liquid. Okay. The greater the force, the more effect it's going to have on the liquid. Okay.
Fascinating. I love
Okay, look
this.
at these air bubbles.
Is that from spit? That's from blood spitting
Right.
out of the mouth?
Well, it could be that, or it could be blood that it got down, as we said earlier, into the lungs, and now is being spit out, coughed out.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Now I want to show you an example of blood dripping into blood. So I'm going to go find that. So bear with me. Let me get that.
Okay. Can I share something here while you are looking?
Yeah. Go for it.
Okay.
You don't need my permission.
I want to wait. Yes, I do. You're my co-host. You're my partner. So Texas Maid says very impressive. You, Susie, says physics. A lot of people.
I love physics.
Yeah, a lot of people are fascinated by this stuff. So appreciate that. Debbie's sending in a question. Another question. Will we see a short video of a porch guy, but no complete video of him coming or going? Is there more video that they aren't showing us? Possibly. I don't know. I would hope that there is, but you never know with this guy. We only see this one short video clip. I personally think that there's more. Ed, I don't know. What do you think? I'm getting bugged out by the double me and you. This is us live here. This is Memorex. Do you think there's more video, Ed?
More video from who?
From Porch Guy.
Oh yeah, I believe that they're still working that up. But there you go. That's the video that you would want there. I'm going to share this now.
Okay.
So I can show you all what blood dripping into blood looks like. And again, if you go to the websites on the International Association for Bloodstain Pattern Analysts, you can see videos of how blood are actually made, how bloodstain patterns are actually made. All right. So I'm going to share. Whoops.
Ed, we said we were only going to do 30 minutes, and look at the time. It's over an hour. Who wants us to end this now, or who wants us to continue on? Put a 1 in the chat if you want more. Ed spent a great deal of this show looking for exactly this. What he wants to show us. Put a 1 in the chat if you want to see more. Put a 2 if you want us to end it.
Okay.
Oh, Ed, what do you got here?
I got a security alert.
What the hell happened?
I don't know. Okay. Can everybody see this?
Can we pull
Ron,
it down?
can you see it?
Yeah. Can you pull it down just a little bit, like so we can see the top part?
Hey, now.
Pull it down, Ed.
All right. I'm
Blow
trying.
it out your ass!
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. That was wrong. Why does this say BP Epstein on there?
I'm sorry.
Okay, forget it. Just
What
go
just
back.
happened? All right. Let me back up. All right. Everybody see this?
Yes.
Yeah. BP Epstein is the, and Taylor and these people are the ones that uploaded these videos to the site. Okay. Now, does everybody see that sphere up on top?
The round bubble. The bubble.
This right here, you see my mouse, right?
Yeah. The round circle.
That is how your blood flies through the air. The cohesive forces, centrifugal force of our Earth, boom, when the blood lets loose from whatever surface it's on, you'll get that stereotypical, or I shouldn't say stereotypical, but you'll get that teardrop shape that everybody talks about. And then once the teardrop releases from the source that the blood is coming from, it will immediately fall as a oscillating sphere. And that's what that is. Now, you already see on the graph paper, several of blood drops have dropped onto this surface, okay, and created this little pool in the center and some satellite. You can also see that, you know, how the shape of the blood on the paper shows you that this paper may be have a waxy surface to it, because it's got that you have this surface over here. It's not flat, right? It's not flat, and it's not absorbing into the paper immediately. Okay. All right. So that's what it looks like. Now I'm going to show you what happens when it impacts, when that sphere impacts that stain. Okay. Let me close this. All right.
Anticipation, Ed.
Anticipation.
Is there anything PTSD that we need to?
Okay. So you see these 360-degree satellite spatters that are coming from around the main stains. That's from blood dripping into blood. Okay. So there are numerous ways to get small sub-millimeter droplets of blood projected, whether it's energy from a mechanical device, or it's blood dripping into blood, or insects, and so forth and so on. But that sphere dropped into that pool and is creating a lot of these secondary spatters that are going in 360 degrees around that surface on that paper.
Fascinating.
Okay.
And you had a station set up in Rockland County when I came that showed this, I believe. I'm almost certain I did see this.
I don't think so.
No? Maybe it was something else. Maybe it was something with the footwear impressions or something like that.
Okay. So
what do we got here, Ed?
let me make this larger.
Welcome to all the new viewers. I saw a couple of people who said, I'm a long-time watcher, but first time chatter. We encourage people to speak up, and thank you for coming in and chatting. If you've been watching us for a long time and not saying anything, we appreciate you.
So this is a case of the passenger. That's the passenger seat. Then you have your armrest and your center console, and the victim is in the driver's seat. Now, at trial, the crime scene analyst that did this analysis, I believe it was Dr. Pete Pizzola. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But at trial, during the testimony, the officers testified that when the shooter was caught shortly thereafter, he had no blood on him. And the defense attorney tried to say, well, look at all this blood here. If he was there, it would be all over him. Well, no. Yeah, it would be all over him, right? So what we're proving here is the fact that he wasn't there at the time this blood created these secondary spatters, okay? Because he had exited the vehicle. And then what happened is when he slammed the door closed, the driver, who had a gunshot wound to the right side of his head, slumped over, and the blood started dripping out of his head from the bullet wound onto the center console, and then creating these secondary spatters on the seat.
Wow. A little bit graphic. I just took it off just for a second. And I want to say thank you to all the new viewers. Ed, just a second. Nancy Drew, Common Sense. I believe Common Censure. Census. Thank you for being here, and welcome. Welcome. Class is in session. But look, this is all pertaining to this blood that we saw on Nancy Guthrie's portico in the front. Just to give people an idea of what somebody that has the expertise that Ed has and these certifications of certified senior crime scene analyst, this doesn't come just by getting a stamp of approval by somebody. It comes by learning, by performing, by testifying in court, being certified as a expert in court by the judges, being vaudeered to prove his expertise. Ed, how many times have you testified in court? I don't have the number.
I'm close to, hold on, I'll get it.
Oh, just give me one off the top of your head, Ed. I won't.
I'm
hold
not giving you off the top of my head.
Over
Homie, don't play that game.
you. Say over 1,000 for crime. Holy.
Blow it out your ass. Blow it out your ass.
Easy there, Skippy.
Come on, Ed. How many times? Over 1,000?
No.
500?
No. Give me a second, please. Give me a second. You're killing me, Francis. You're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. Lighten up, Francis. Okay.
God, please give me the strength to carry on. Please.
Are you doing your 12-step prayer?
He's testified numerous times. Okay?
All right, I got it now. Okay. See how hard was this? All right. 399 trials.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you very much.
All right.
I'm still testifying. They called me back for a 1990 homicide case that I had. Recently. I had to go to Queens and testify. How many years retired?
Nobody yelled at this person. Longtime watcher. Don't come at this person in the chat because I get yelled at for using the caps. But Legally Blind, thank you for being here, and we appreciate and respect everybody that's watching. I purposely put in the closed captions at the end of the videos for folks like yourself, and also, it is what it is. Go ahead, Ed. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
But I showed those two examples just to show our audience here how that one stain there, where I said that she seemed to be there for a while, for a little bit to create those patterns, could either be aspirator expired or blood dripping into blood. And again, I would need to get on scene, hands-on, with the proper documentation and testing and alternate light sources, and work this all up to figure out which one of these potential patterns it could actually be.
Okay. I'm trying to share this. This is exactly what Ed was talking about. Again, getting
that one right there.
Yeah. I'm sorry. This one right here.
This one. Yeah, that one.
Okay. Try to get that.
Again, remember, folks, this was after the crime scene people took a sample from this location.
Right. Yeah, appreciate the captions, Ron. They're very helpful for lots of folks and lots of people with disabilities. Yes, absolutely. I mean, look, I get all the different requests and I try to accommodate as many people as possible, as humanly possible. I think that we pretty much got the information that we needed to get out here today. There is a lot of people, Ed, with misinformation, because you can get, you could turn on YouTube and get 5, 10 different people that are going live to this day, every day, about Nancy Guthrie. We try to come to you with information when it becomes available, but unfortunately, there's not a lot of information available. But when we do see misinformation or something that's maybe not completely the way it should be presented, we want to just, again, we uploaded this video that we showed you February 17th. So it was some time ago, over 2 months ago. And here we are on April 25th, which happens to be my youngest birthday. Happy birthday to my son, Frankie, in Florida. Happy 30th birthday, son. I love you.
Hey, Ron.
Ed, yes?
I just want to show one more thing about
Stop breathing down my neck.
Go ahead, Ed.
Oh, I'm gonna smack you so hard the next time I see you. I just want to show one more.
It's you buying me birthday dinner.
Yeah. Yes, I do owe you that.
I'm looking forward to that. Lobster and steak.
It's good for me. Whatever floats your boat. It is your birthday.
You guys all heard it here. My birthday dinner. Ed said, "Whatever floats my boat." I think Rothman's in up in the North Shore. They got a good. They got a good restaurant menu. Restaurant week menu. Yeah, it's $89.95 per person. All right.
All right. You know what? I could. Here, let me do this.
Thank you for gifting 5 memberships. Love you guys all. Surf and turf. People are laughing at that comment. ATS News is here. Hey, how are you, Amber? Good to see you, Amber, moderator, friend of the channel. Appreciate you being here. Happy birthdays to my son Frankie. Thank you, Eileen, Linda Lane. I love
Okay.
to see the people who leave comments in the live chat, and Linda Lane happens to be one of them. She leaves us a lot of comments, and I really appreciate it, especially Eileen Becker. There's so many. Lexi's here. With Lexi comes Beamer. DB Bentley gifted out 5 memberships. Ed, it took you a long time to do that.
Okay. Yeah, I had to find the stuff. So, so this is me at our.
Yeah, hold on. There it is. Okay.
Okay, this is me and some of my students at the bloodstain course at the medical examiner's office. You see, I'm wearing the OCME shirt.
Wait a minute. This is you with your back to the wall here?
Yeah,
Is that the same Ed Wallace that I'm seeing
that's
here?
me. That's me. And our students came from all over. This is one of our spatter boxes, and it has the spatter trap contraption that we use to create radial spatter, such as a blunt force instrument striking a bleeding surface on a victim. And that's Barbara Butcher, you see. All right, everybody loves Barbara.
That's a young Barbara Butcher.
Okay, this is our spatter walls, and you can see we have a pig's head there and several weapons, and we use this to create radial blunt force trauma spatter and do the 3D stringing. And some of our students from all over the country.
Ed, you worked with Barbara Butcher?
I did, back at the medical examiner's office. That's right, I did. And that's Jeff in the maroon shirt. And he's one of my criminalists there that worked with us. And there's the spatter boxes, and we're creating all kinds of spatter.
Who's the guy with the blue shirt with the pen in the pocket?
One of the students,
Okay.
one of my students. And we're creating, it's not Jackson Pollock paintings. It's spatters that are indicative of blunt force trauma. And then other students in the background there are conducting other tests, and they're dropping blood off a knife onto different surfaces. And so it's the same volume, same height, same object the blood is coming from, just the surfaces are changing, and they can note the difference. There you see a bloody footwear impression, and we do experiments with that. These are dynamic and passive contact transfer from various items, cloth, weapons, and so forth. So we go through the whole gambit here. That is Norm. He's, again, one of our criminalists that helped develop the course and helped teach it with me and Dr. Pizzola. Again, there's some of the experiments of blood dripping from different items onto different surfaces, creating different stains. All right. And there we're going to do, you can see the luminol being used, actually leucocrystal violet being used to enhance blood stains on floors, in this case, footwear impression. Okay, and these are blood that were dripped onto tiles at different angles, and they give you different geometry, and you can calculate the angle the blood impacted the surface with by doing some trigonomic functions, little geometry, little measurements. And there's our pig head. And what we do is we cut the scalp open, we get the skin down to the bone, and then we stuff the pig with a sponge and saturate the sponge with blood. Okay, this is the blood dripping into blood experiment, and you can see, you know, we can create all different secondary spatters.
Wow, Barbara, she's right there.
Right. And then you could see how far out the blood will come. And then we use that cardboard and we create a void pattern. We put a pool of blood on top of the cardboard and drip into the cardboard. Then we remove the cardboard, and now you create a void pattern. So that's what I was saying about the shoes. You see where I marked my feet? That's where my feet were. So any blood that dripped on there should, and that is not in those areas, will be on my suit. See how I'm standing, right? And I'm dripping blood into blood, and you can see it's coming up on the wall and projecting away from the wall.
Why wasn't everybody wearing PPE, Ed?
They're only the people that do the experiments in that area wear the PPE.
By the way, everybody who's saying about the book, I have it right here in the studio. Just want to show it real quick. put us back on. I had to run to get that. I'll get it back, Ed. There you go. Oh,
Okay, everybody. And we have different weapons, blood spatter heads.
look, people want Barbara Butcher back on the show. We've called her numerous times. She's always very busy with all of her books and all the things that she does. So she's busy. Hopefully when things quiet down for her, she'll come on and come on and hang out with us. We love
All
her.
right.
She's on many times. Ed, thank you for this demonstration. Whoa, what did you do, Ed?
I did nothing.
All right. See, Lady Jane C says, have Ed call Barbara to be on the show and get Dr. Murray Marks back, because I think a lot of people want to see Dr. Murray Marks. Hey, folks, this has been over an hour and a half of a great conversation. Day 84 in the Nancy Guthrie case. We talked about the blood on the front doorstep, the CSI and DNA analysis with our expert, Ed Wallace. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have enjoyed our time here with you today, please consider giving this video a thumbs up, like, subscribe, and share. A heads up and a thank you to all of our moderators, the replay viewers. Ed, how much do we love the replay viewers? We love you guys.
We love them.
We thank you. We love the people who leave us comments down below. If you're not shy and you like to leave comments, leave us a comment to continue the conversation after the live stream is over. It's a great way to keep an open line of communication with us. We answer as many comments as humanly possible. And on behalf of Crime Time and with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for spending your precious time on a Saturday with us. As Ed always says, you can get that fix of true crime anywhere else. And just another thing, by the way, these I'd rather be watching Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace mugs are available in our merch store. Go and get your stuff, because this stuff is really fun. I also have a $5 little sticker, and it says that, and it's got a knife going through it. I'd rather be watching Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. It's a great way to support this channel, and we appreciate everybody who looks at our merch and purchases. Ed, I know you always like to have something to say at the end of these shows, so I give you the floor.
Thank you, folks, for spending your time with us. I know your time is valuable. I know you can get your true crime fix anywhere you like on the internet. There's so many people out there. But we focus on forensics and education and our experiences in law enforcement. So I think we're a bit unique in that regards. And so I appreciate you coming. And as always, folks, stay safe, stay prepared, and watch your six.
Sending strength, prayers, and positive vibes to the Guthrie family, to all the investigators from the FBI and from the good men and women in law enforcement who are on this case still. We'll see you on the next one. Peace and love from Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. Have a good weekend.